Hi everyone, welcome back. Today let's study about ratio and proportion. A ratio is used to compare two quantities of the same kind with same unit, and we can obtain it by dividing the first term by the other. If A and B are any two quantities of the same kind with the same unit such that B not equal to 0, then A by B is called the ratio between A and B. The ratio A by B has no unit, and this can be written as A is to B. The ratio can be written as A is to B. And here A and B are called the terms of the ratio. It's called the terms of the ratio. The first term of the ratio A is called the antecedent, and the second term of the ratio is called the consequent. The first term is the antecedent and the second term is the consequent. The ratio A by B should always be expressed in its lowest form. And these two terms A as well as B should not have any common factor. That means A and B should be co-prime numbers. So in that way we have to write the ratio. The ratio A by B cannot be equal to B by A unless A is equal to B. If A and B are equal, then only the ratio A by B will be equal to B by A. Next is the composition of ratios. The different compositions are, the first one is the compound ratio, second one is the duplicate ratio, triplicate ratio, subduplicate ratio, subtriplicate ratio and reciprocal ratio. Now let's see each ratio separately. For any two ratios A is to B and C is to D, the compound ratio is the ratio between the product of the antecedents to the product of the consequence. I have told you the first term of the ratio is called as the antecedent and the second term are called as the consequent. Now whenever you are finding the compound ratio is the ratio between the product of the antecedents. The product of the first terms is to the product of the consequence, the last term. If this is in case of any two ratios, if there are three ratios, E is to F as well, then we can say that the compound ratio is the product of the antecedents, all the three, A into C into E, the product of the antecedents to the product of the consequence, B into D into F. This is the compound ratio. Next is the duplicate ratio. Duplicate ratio is the compound ratio of two equal ratios. If A is to B is one ratio, its duplicate ratio is A square is to B square. It's a square of the antecedents is to the square of the consequence. See here, A is to B and A is to B. If you are considering two equal ratios, then the duplicate ratio is the compound ratio of these two. Compound ratio says that it is the ratio of the product of the antecedents is to the product of the consequence. That is A square is to B square. This is what the duplicate ratio. Next is a triplicate ratio. A triplicate ratio is the compound ratio of three equal ratios. If A is to B is a ratio, then its triplicate ratio can be written as A cube is to B cube. And we have seen that triplicate ratio is the compound ratio of three equal ratios. So if you are considering A is to B, we can say that it is A is to B, A is to B and A is to B. These are the three equal ratios, and this triplicate ratio is the compound ratio of three equal ratios, and we know that the compound ratio is the ratio between the product of the antecedents. Product of the antecedents is to the product of the consequence. So we can write this as A cube is to B cube. So the triplicate ratio between A and B, or between the ratio A is to B, is A cube is to B cube. The next one is the subduplicate ratio. Subduplicate ratio between A and B, that is the ratio A is to B, is square root of A is to square root of B. That is for the subduplicate ratio. The next one is the subtriplicate ratio. Subtriplicate ratio. And subtriplicate ratio between A and B is A is to B gives cube root of A is to cube root of B. This is the subtriplicate ratio. We have seen that duplicate ratio of A is to B is A square is to B square. So when you are finding the subduplicate ratio between A and B, or the ratio A is to B, is square root of A is to square root of B. In the same way, when you are finding the triplicate ratio of A is to B is A cube is to B cube, and here when you are finding the subtriplicate ratio of A is to B is cube root of A is to cube root of B. Next is a reciprocal ratio. Reciprocal ratio is for any two ratios A is to B, the reciprocal ratio is 1 by A is to 1 by B, taking the reciprocal of the given terms, and this can be written as B is to A. The reciprocal ratio of A is to B is B is to A. Now let's solve few of the sums related to ratios and proportions. Let's consider the first question. If A is to B is 5 is to 3, find 5A minus 3B by 5A plus 3B. So it's given that A is to B is 5 is to 3. And we know that ratios are always expressed in its lowest form. Let's write the values. A is equal to 5x and B is equal to 3x. Now let's find 5A minus 3B by 5A plus 3B. That's equal to 5 into 5x minus 3 into 3x divided by 5 into 5x plus 3 into 3x, and that's equal to 25x minus 9x divided by 25x plus 9x, and that is same as 25 minus 9 is 16. 16x divided by 25 plus 9x is 34x. So here x cancels and we get this as 16 by 34. Again cancelling by 2, we get this as 8 by 17. So this is the ratio 5a minus 3b by 5a plus 3b. So therefore 5a minus 3b by 5a plus 3b is equal to 8 by 17. Consider the next question. If 3a plus 2b is to 5a plus 3b is equal to 18 is to 29, find a is to b. So let's write this. 3a plus 2b by 5a plus 3b is equal to 18 by 29. So this is a ratio and this can be expressed in this format. So 3a plus 2b by 5a plus 3b is equal to 18 by 29. Now let's cross multiply this. You get this as 29 into 3a plus 2b is equal to 18 into 5a plus 3b. So that is equal to 87a plus 58b is equal to 90a plus 54b. Now bring a to this side and b to this side. 87a minus 90a is equal to 54b minus 58b. And this implies 87 minus 90 is minus 3a is equal to 54 minus 58 is minus 4b. So dividing by minus 1, we get this as 3a is equal to 4b, or a by b is equal to 4 by 3. Bringing 3 to this side and b to the denominator. Therefore, a is to b is equal to 4 is to 3. Now let's find the compound ratio of 2 is to 3, 9 is to 14 and 14 is to 27. So we have already seen that the compound ratio is the ratio between the product of the antecedent, the first terms, to the product of the consequence. So when you are finding this, the compound ratio will be the product of the first terms. We have to find 2 into 9 into 14 is to 3 into 14 into 27. The product of the antecedents into the product of the consequence. And we know that the ratio is always expressed in the simplified form or the lowest forms. We have to write it again. 2 into 9 into 14 divided by 3 into 14 into 27. Now simplify the terms. We get this as 14. 14 get cancels. 9 3s are 27 and we get the remaining terms as 2 by 9. Therefore the ratio is, this implies the ratio is 2 is to 9. This is the compound ratio between these three given ratios. Now, when you are considering the next ratio 3 is to 4, and we need to find the duplicate ratio of 3 is to 4. And we know that the duplicate ratio of any two terms is the square of the given terms. That is, if a is to b are the terms, the duplicate ratio is a square is to b square. Therefore, 3 is to the duplicate ratio of 3 is to 4 is 3 square is to 4 square, that is equal to 9 is to 16. This is the duplicate ratio of 3 is to 4. In the same way, the triplicate ratio means if a is to b is a given ratio and its triplicate ratio is a cube is to b cube. So therefore, if you consider 1 is to 3, the triplicate ratio is 1 cube is to 3 cube. That is equal to 1 is to 27. Now these questions are for you. Solve it and let me know the answer. That's all for today. We'll meet in the next class with more sums on ratio and proportions. Thank you.